glow-in-the-dark clay. I've never worked with it before. This cheap wire was all I could afford for armature wire, and this old smelly block of wood was all I could find. Let's do this. I start by drilling holes by hand into my smelly wood to mount my armature. The wire is cheap and thin, so I double up and twist it together for strength. I need to make sure I am able to slap this clay onto the ghoul's skeleton. I've never used armature wire or even made a sculpture this big before, so I double it up again. I started building up his legs and started moving upward to his torso, adding and removing clay as I needed. I built out his hips to make him appear more bony, and I repeated the process with his knees. His torso, along with the rest of this ghoul, has a lot of details I'm just not skilled enough to pull off, and the clay was a lot softer than the extra firm clay that I'm used to. So it was definitely a challenge, but that's all part of the learning process. I added, removed clay as part of this process, and got to a point where I was happy. I did further sculpting off camera for setup reasons. That camera was getting into the way, so it was just hard to do the details and get the shots at the same time. I started detailing his torso and the ribs, and the soft clay, like I said, made it very difficult to make it look clean. Have you ever tickled the ribs of a glowing one and lived to tell about it? If so, I'm sure you're writing fanfiction about your encounter. The one detail that I messed up, that I know that you will all point out first, are his disproportionate arms. Spoiler alert, I didn't fix it. But remember, learning process. It's something that I'll have to work on in my next time making a sculpture. I hope you appreciate the camera angle as I add more detail to his legs and undercarriage. Ah yes, scoliosis, a ghoul's new-found arch-nemesis. The fingers were very difficult to achieve, and I should have pulled the north of the border and made little wormy dealies to put on. But remember, learning process. The body's finished. Now it's time for that beautiful smile. Who doesn't love a good jump scare, other than seniors with heart conditions? Now let's actually get started on the face. A ghoul's face, specifically the glowing ones, don't have symmetrical faces, so perfection isn't required here. His nose, or lack thereof aforementioned nose, and his jowls and his mouth were all poked and prodded at with various sculpting tools, until I got my desired results. I proceeded to stick some pre-baked eyes into his eye sockets, and since ghouls don't have eyelids, I didn't need to make any. I just pressed those eyes deep into his skull. After a full bake, I started wrapping some pre-textured clay around him to cover his shame, or lack of aforementioned shame. Of course, he is old and weathered, so his jeans have to be old and torn and weathered as well to resemble shorts, and in the Movavi, pants would be way too warm. And I think maybe our glowing friend might be onto something. When removing him from his armature block, I broke his leg. Repair was required, so I patched him up and started painting with the pants. And then his eyes. And then I started moving on to those beautiful purple veins that serpentine beneath his glowing, transparent flesh. His yellow teeth were chomping at me to chomp at the bit to make a base for him to stand in, so I did just that. I do tile, and we use Schluterboard to board our shower walls, and that's what I'm going to use to make my base today. So I've pre-cut a perimeter to elevate the edges to create an irradiated pool of water within a rocky hole. I pop out the center of my pre-cut piece and glue it all together. A happy home for our angry little boy. I use my Ulfa blade to trim down the sharper edges of the Schluterboard. And, like north of the border fashion, I couldn't help myself but to use a rock for rocky texture. Ah, yes. When the struggle is real and the paint runs dry. Thank God I had some more. I paint my rocky base with black acrylic. Afterwards, I proceed to get going with some lighter browns and highlights, making sure I get into all the nooks and crannies. I apply a generous amount of translucent white silicone and a drop of each blue and green neon acrylic paint. After mixing, I I scoop the mixture into the base, even it out, and mount our glowing boy within. Now it's time to let him dry and prepare for the final product.
Well, hey there, Dirty Rancher here. I just want to say thanks for watching the video. It really makes my day to see those views go up, so remember, like, subscribe, share, and comment. Have a great day.